these motherfuckers aren't taking me out. Who the fuck are they to take me out? They come over, they fly our fucking planes into our buildings and kill thousands of people. And I'm coming over there and they're about to kill me? Fuck that.
All right, Nick. Nick, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
Right outside Boston, Mass. I moved all over as a kid.
What kind of family you had?
I had a very good family. I'd like to say I'm blessed. I don't know how else to put it.
You had mom and dad?
My father was a very hard worker. He instituted that into us at a very young age. He was in construction. He built houses. And I have two younger brothers as well. And he brought us to every house he built. And from the ground up, he taught us from the site work to the frame to the finish work. And he really instituted the importance in hard work. And to this day, I thank him for that.
What kind of kid were you in high school?
I'd like to say I was a jock. It's kind of weird, actually, because I was a Marine, every single sport I played, I was defense. I kind of fit right into that groove. As us defenders like to call it, a seat at the table, middle linebacker, nose tackle, for football at least. And then lacrosse, I was defense as well. And I dabbled in a little bit in baseball, but I was a catcher. But that didn't really get past high school. But yeah, I had a good childhood.
That's great. And then the military, how did that come about?
So, I don't want to say the same thing everyone else does, but 9/11 hit us. No pun intended, but I remember I was in 6th grade and no one knew the fuck what was going on. We heard probably 5, 6 different stories about what happened, and it really just resonated that someone hit us on our own turf. And it was time someone did something about it. And as I said, I was in 6th grade. That stuck with me. And I remember telling it to my father, and he was just not about it. He knew we were in a time of war, and he worked very hard to try to get us into college, and we came from nothing. And he really came from nothing as well, and he just worked his balls off to try to get us to go to college so we could be successful and we could ultimately have a good life. That's, at the end of the day, that's what he wanted. He wanted us to be happy, and I think he just had 3 boys so we could take care of him at the end of the day. He always jokes that we'll be changing his Depends when he gets older. But yeah, so I think it was 15, 16, I got into a little bit of trouble. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was always kind of a fighter. And I joined a program called the Young Marines. And it was kind of like an ROTC program. A few of my buddies joined as well. And that really sealed the deal for me. It was going to be the Marines. Tip of the spear, the guys on the front lines, that's what I wanted to do. And at the age of 17, I, by myself, no one else, I somehow connected with the recruiter, told him what I wanted to do, and I pretty much got to the point where I was about to leave, and my father ganked it, and he said, if you're gonna do it, it's gonna be 18, and from 17 to 18, he tried his absolute hardest to convince me not to do it. I mean, I think ultimately he was scared, and
Didn't want to lose his son.
he didn't want to lose his son, period. My father's not someone that gets scared, and I'm sure everyone has that feeling about their father, but it was different with him. That's the first time I saw my dad show any kind of emotion, really. And it definitely affected me. But there was something inside of me that always just told me that the Marines was it for me. And 18, I signed the papers, and I went to MEPS, got cleared on the medical side, and right after I graduated high school, I was gone.
Do you think there's something in your makeup, your personality, that just you're meant to be a Marine? Not everybody can enlist, and
That's true, but I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, but I know that it was for me,
there you go.
and I completely embodied it. I said I was in sports. I was a knockaround guy. I was never really good at the skill side of sports, but I could pop. I could lay a hit, and you didn't want to come to my side of the field, period. But that kind of stuck with me, and not to toot my own horn or anything, but I did good. And I went to boot camp, and definitely a culture shock. I did something called the Buddy Program. You may have heard of it. But I don't really have a good story about why I joined or anything. I was literally at a house party, and honestly, it was like, I think it was 2 weeks out from going to actual boot camp, and my best friend just randomly showed up at this house party, and he sat down next to me, and he's like, Nicky, what's your plans for after high school? Because I don't think college is gonna work out for me. And I told him, I was like, hey Mike, this is what I'm doing. And he's like, really? Well, you know what? Whose car are we gonna take? And we did it together. And I gotta say, I was absolutely relieved that I had someone to go with, especially him. I was nervous as hell. But yeah, Mike went with me. And to this day, I appreciate that. He's always been the type of guy to this day, he's always had my back, and I gotta tip my hat to that kid. Mike, I appreciate you. I was actually his best man at his wedding. But that's getting off track. But so we went to boot camp, and as I said, it was a culture shock, but in boot camp, everyone has a job, and me and Mike were the window cleaners. And when you're a window cleaner, I was with 1st Battalion Alpha Company, and we overlooked the parade deck. And the parade deck is where everyone graduates. So every morning, we are washing windows, seeing everyone graduate, and we're in our first couple weeks of boot camp getting absolutely slayed. And Mikey looks at me and he's like, hey, Nick, maybe we shot the gun a little too early. I don't know if this was the greatest decision, but I always calmed him down, and we found a way to make it work. But something that sticks in my head about boot camp, probably everyone says in boot camp that, the drill instructors that taught them or trained them were cream of the crop, the toughest guys around. But I wish I could show you the absolute demons that trained us in boot camp, because they were guys that had been the first ones into Fallujah in Iraq, and Baghdad as well. And those guys were absolute different breed of Marine. At that time, I remember they always told us this story that before they went into the cities, the Air Force dropped flyers that basically said, and it was either Pashtun or Dari, which is the two different dialects of what they speak over there. Anything moving is dead if you don't get out by this date. And they called them stormtroopers. Anything that moved was shot, killed, bagged, and tagged. And those were the guys training us. There was one who was a kill hat. Kill hats are just the guys that absolutely break you down to nothing and build you up into the man they want you to be. And I remember hating this guy. His name was Staff Sergeant Chambers. But he was an absolute animal stud of a Marine. And this kind of shows you, I mean, I guess nowadays they would consider this hazing, but we didn't do it again, whatever it was that he was hitting us with. But we had mail call. And anytime mail comes around, whether you're in boot camp, you're deployed, you're in country, it's like, it's a big deal. And we had a keg party before we went to boot camp. And this was back when Instagram wasn't around, iPhones weren't around, and we just had the Polaroid pictures. And there were some suspect pictures, to say the least, of us, doing keg stands, just having a good time before we left for boot camp. And in boot camp, you're only allowed to look at mail at certain times, and pictures are highly discouraged. So Mike got his mail, and he saw the pictures, and he hits me. He's like, Nicky, he's like, let's go take a look at these. And at the time, the only time you got a little bit of privacy was to go hit the head. And the bathrooms in boot camp were open stalls. So you literally just had to sit on a toilet, take your shit off, and go to the bathroom. So me and Mike sat next to each other, and we're going through the pictures. Unfortunately, Staff Sergeant Chambers had noticed both of us going to the bathroom together, which is a no-no. And he followed us in, and he saw that we were looking at pictures, which was not allowed. And we were going to the bathroom. We were sitting down, going to the bathroom, taking a number 2. And he comes in, and he starts ripping us a new one, and he says, stand up, position of attention, now. And we got nothing on, so we stand up, fucking twigs and berries out at the position of attention, and what are you guys doing, blah, blah. He takes his finger, goes in the toilet, and takes a scoop of whatever was in the toilet, and he puts it on our foreheads. And he says to Mike, he's like, what's that make you, Private Arbogast? And he was kind of confused. He was like, what? What's that make you? And I piped up. I was like, shithead, sir, did I ask you? Back and forth, back and forth. Regardless, we had to go throughout the rest of the day with that on our foreheads. And from then on, we were private shitheads. And Yeah, that was boot camp, and now that's probably frowned upon, but they brought us down low and made us into absolute killing machines. And that's kind of harsh saying that, but I gotta say I thank that man today. He got me ready for the real world. Maybe not in that instance with that, but he got me ready. And I'm happy that I had him as a drill instructor. And if he's out there right now, I just want to say thank you. Staff Sergeant Chambers, Gunny Chambers, whatever you are, you're an absolute stud. Thank you. You absolutely got me ready for Afghanistan. So the Marine Corps is a blur after boot camp. Everyone goes to their jobs, does their training, and gets stuck with the unit they're gonna go. And keep in mind, at this time, this is when Iraq and Afghanistan was popping off. And that ultimately was the reason my father didn't want me to go. And he was dead on with that. To this, I hate it, but that man is always right. To this day, everything he tells me, I don't listen, of course, but he is always right. And he'll let you know. But I gotta start listening to him, because everything he has told me, he has been dead on. Regardless, I got attached to an infantry platoon pretty quickly. I was a field MP. That was my job. And I got attached to 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines out of K-Bay in Hawaii. And at the time, I was in Japan with 3rd Marines, and I had a salty, I believe he was a corporal or a sergeant at the time, Sergeant Leclerc at the time chose, I think, 10 Marines to go with him on a special little, at the time he called it a special mission. I don't know how special it was, but he said that we were going to be seeing combat right away. And of course, my hand shot straight up. And they always tell you in the Marines, never volunteer for anything. But I got to say, I'm thankful that I volunteered for this. And to a certain degree, because, yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm a little goofy now, a little fucked up, but I made some of the best relationships of my life. So yeah, as I said, it's a blur, man. We from Japan, we shot over to Hawaii, and we got attached with another 10 guys that were motor T, infantry guys, and of course we had comm and a couple docs. But we were part of a PMT team, which is a police mentoring team, and our mission was to go to a very dangerous area at the time, in Helmand Province, which at that time was the most dangerous place in the world. And we were tasked with training and going on missions with Afghans. Afghan National Army, which is ANA, and Afghan Highway Patrol, which is their form of police. Right away in Hawaii, when we got attached to these guys, they let us know that, this was for real, this was serious, and this wasn't just another, training evolution or just talk, or they weren't gassing us up. We were going to see combat, and they needed us to be ready, period. So right away, I was always in shape. and I was always an aggressive individual. So they put me on the 50 cal. We did a few ranges, and I did very well with the thing. And keep in mind, the 50 cal is not easy to fire or manipulate or operate, period. But I did very well with it. Every range that I was on, I hit everything I was shooting at. Keep in mind, the round's like fucking this big. So, but that meant something to me, because keep in mind, I was a field MP. I was not a machine gunner, but they made me one quick. And ever since that moment of going through those ranges, I was Vic 1's machine gunner, which we were mostly running mounted convoys over there, usually 4 or 5 trucks, and each truck has a machine gun. But usually the first truck is always, the scout vehicle, or the first one in, like the first one that's receiving contact or getting shot at is the first truck. And yeah, I was the machine gunner for it. So we shot over to Afghanistan, and instantly, there's always a party of like 5 guys that go there before the team goes there. I think it's like pre-deployment, or I don't know the exact term for it. But the moment they got there, in the area that we were actually going to be operating in, the AO, or area of operation, they got hit by a suicide bomber. This is like within the first week or 2. And we knew it was going to be real. So the rest of the guys get over there, and usually when you deploy, you stay on a base and you run a few operations. You leave the wire every once in a while. We lived off of the base, which was scary in its own right, because we were living with the Afghans. And it was a very unsettling feeling, because you really gotta sleep with one eye open with these guys. Yeah, some of them were good to go, but the other half of them were somehow related to the Taliban. And when you're living with these people, that is not something you want to deal with. And there was really nothing we could do about it. Regardless, there was always this weird feeling over there that we were being watched. I don't know how to explain it, but the hairs on the back of your neck are always standing up over there. I don't care who you are, it's just this feeling that someone is watching you. And it's very unsettling. And that's how we felt all the time over there. Regardless, so we had set up this big patrol base, and it was actually in the middle of 2 main roads. Over there's not many roads, but these were the 2 paved roads through Afghanistan. And basically they were main supply routes, MSRs. They basically, any convoy that went from base to base carrying goods, mail, oil, weapons, would travel on these roads. And the Taliban was absolutely wreaking havoc with something called IEDs. When I was over there were 3 types of IEDs, maybe 4. There were radio-controlled IEDs. There was pressure plates. And there was suicide bombers. And then towards the end of my deployment, they came up with something called HME. That's what we were calling it at the time. Basically, it's a pressure plate IED that they stuff with ball bearings, screws, rounds, anything metal, and these things get so hot in the IED, when they shoot out, they literally go through up armor. Any kind of armor, they fucking buzz right through it, and they kill who's ever in the vehicle. I gotta say, I don't want to say that I respected the Taliban or the enemy over there, but these boys could fight. They adapted to our SOPs, our TTPs. SOPs, standing operating procedures. TTPs are training, techniques, and something else. I don't know. I've been out of the game for a little while. But we had to adjust our tactics, our fighting style constantly for these guys, because these guys would pick up on fucking everything. And I don't know if that had to do with Taliban being in our camp, or if just these guys, I mean, keep in mind, these guys fought the Russians. We start running, something that shocked me right away, and keep in mind, we're in a dangerous fucking area. We started going on the offense, which is, I mean, to say the least, dangerous. We start doing mounted convoys up and down these roads, and we start being proactive with these guys. I mean, we're fighting every other day, taking contact, small arms fire, mortars, sniper fire. But we're finding these IEDs, and IEDs was their bread and butter. That's how they were being aggressive over there, and that's how they were actually putting a dent in us. And I learned quick about where they put these things, how they installed them, how they operated, what to look for. And keep in mind, fucking Afghanistan is littered with trash, littered with vehicles that have been blown up, old missiles, mortar shells, Scud missiles. It's a boneyard. So looking for these fucking IEDs is not something that's simple. And the Marine Corps tried training us for it, but literally is absolutely next to impossible to find these things. Keep in mind, we're in a mounted convoy going 40 miles an hour down the road, and our first line of defense is a mine roller on front of our vehicle, and then me, up in the gun. I have to visually look on the side of the road, and keep in mind, I'm in Vic 1, so I'm the first one that's calling out these things that we need to look for to be proactive to try to stop these IEDs absolutely blowing us to hell. Also, the leader for us was, his name was Captain Donnerstag, and he was always in my vehicle in the shotgun position, because he would always be on the comms and reading the Blue Force tracker. And honestly, he was the guy finding these fucking IEDs before I was. Keep in mind, he's in the vehicle. I'm up in the gun. He's making me look like an absolute chump. Stopping the vehicle, getting us out. We're doing 05s and 25s, which is basically over there. The first line of defense against IEDs is 05s and 25s. It's when you stop and get out of the vehicle, open the door, you look down, you do a canvas around the vehicle, that's 0. You go 5 meters out, you go around, you're looking for IEDs, and then you go 25 meters out. That's how we basically see if there's anything around the vehicle that we're at. Keep in mind, always when you get out of the vehicle, you close the door. If an IED goes off, takes you out, you don't want it blowing up everybody inside. So there's little things like that that you need to be proactive about. So yeah, I mean, we're finding these things, we're taking hits, but at the end of the day, we're being proactive against the Taliban. We're running usually 2 convoys a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then at night, the lower ranks, private, PFC, Lance Corporal, we're standing security over the patrol base we were in. So we're doing long days. It was about that time that I got into my first serious firefight. I remember it. It was around 3 a.m. and I was in the rack sleeping, and we started getting mortared. When a mortar drops, it's an absolute sickening sound. It's like a hellish whistle, almost. I don't really know how to describe it with adjectives, but you know something big was coming. You can hear it, you can feel it, you can sense it, and when it hits the ground, everything shakes, and it's just, what the fuck's going on? First couple hit, instantly when that happens over there, you're trained, you're jumping out of the rack, you're throwing your flak on, you're getting your weapon, and you're running to the vehicle because you know shit's popping off. Our radio started going off that one of our patrol bases about, I think a couple clicks down, Route 1, was getting ambushed. These guys planned this shit out. I've played these video games, Call of Duty, all this stuff. I've never seen something like this. So keep in mind, I run in my vehicle, I get my 50 up, headspace and timing, good to go. I'm so focused on getting my weapon ready and getting everything that we need to bang it out with these guys, I realize I'm in my boxers, I got my boots on, and I got this t-shirt on. Fuck it, our guys are getting hit, we need to get the fuck out there. Our trucks are up, we start blowing out there. And keep in mind, I had never been in a firefight at night before this. The fastest I've ever gone in the truck that I'm in, going to this patrol base, radios are going crazy because Afghans can't really speak English, so the interpreter's on the radio, blah, 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 blah. We don't understand. All we hear is Taliban. And going into this thing, I remember feeling like this is it. Everything I've trained for is about to culminate right now. I literally thought at that moment, I remember just seeing tracer rounds going back and forth and explosions going off. I remember, and I'm not trying to exaggerate, I remember thinking this is what hell looks like. And weirdly enough, and keep in mind, I'm fucked up, but I got excited to a certain degree. This was the test. This was there to show me if I was ready to call myself a Marine. We are known to be the guys that fight, period. And it's moments like this that you show your colors. And I remember I racked my 50 back, just put it condition 1. And weirdly enough, I thought of my father. As a kid growing up, we always had a song. And it was Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin or something like that. Chapin. But it more or less talks about a father-son story. And I honestly didn't think I was coming back out of this. And yeah, I thought of him. I thought, why the fuck did I come over here? Why didn't I listen to him? I got 2 younger brothers that I should be helping, grow up. But yeah, regardless, I remember that hit me. And I got angry. And I was like, these motherfuckers aren't taking me out. Who the fuck are they to take me out? They come over, they fly our fucking planes into our buildings and kill thousands of people. And I'm coming over there and they're about to kill me? Fuck that. I got furious. Keep in mind, I have the biggest machine gun the Marine Corps makes in front of me. I was ready to go. Instantly, my vehicle starts taking contact. I'm talking, the guys in my vehicle didn't really see it, but instantly to the left flank, when we got near this patrol base, the whole sky lights up. All you really see in an instant like this is muzzle flashes. The rounds weren't hitting our vehicle yet, but instantly I started chirping with the 50. And these guys were kind of far out at this point. And my captain is like, Cardi, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, sir, are you fucking kidding me right now? We're getting attacked. And he I kind of had to assert to him like, it's time to go. And yeah, so he said, fuck it too. And we instantly turned off the road and went at these guys. Here we go. And when you go off-road over there, keep in mind this was during the summertime, and the sun bakes these things called wadis over there. Wadis, I believe, I could be wrong, don't kill me on this, are the canals where water runs through for their plants. So it's like whoops. And in the gun, don't kill me on this either, but I don't believe I had my, no, I did have my gunner's harness on, but you're supposed to have a gunner's harness on in the gun. But we're going over these whoops, and I am absolutely taking a beating. Yeah, it was scary getting shot at, but my driver, keep in mind, whenever I had a driver, they've been Hispanic. And both of them, savages. They will drive through anything. Absolutely fucking anything. These guys are going through it. My driver at the time, Cervantes, he's got our truck pegged as fast as it's gonna go. Keep in mind, he's got a mine roller on the front of it, which is this big plow type thing, which is supposed to take the hit first if we get hit by an IED. But he's got this thing pegged, and we're going straight at these guys. Comms are down. The rest of our trucks, they're taking fire as well, and they're chirping, but I don't know what happened. There's this thing called fog of war. When shit's really popping off, you don't know what's going on, and it's extremely scary. Regardless, the thing that I had at my disposal was my weapons, and I was using them. I was absolutely blowing away anything that shot at us. But going through these wadis, I'm talking at probably 50, 60 miles an hour, my ammo crate on my 50 cal blew off. Fuck. That's not good. My biggest weapon is down. And at this exact time, we had a vehicle in front of us. I don't know how many people can say this, but I saw the whites of this guy's eyes. All the other vehicles scattered, and this vehicle was trying to get away. Cervantes was right on my driver, was right on his 6. I'm talking from me to you. And I see in the back seat this giant machine gun. And I see, which at the time I believe was a PKM. I see the guy in the back mask up and come out the window and just start blasting us. And his goal was to come up and hit me. And Yeah, he didn't. I, at that time, had my M4, and I put rounds in the back of the vehicle, and all I saw was a pink mist. Regardless, the vehicle was still taking fire, and I remember on the right side of the vehicle, it's just sporadic, and on the left side of the vehicle, it was a much larger caliber, much better shots. So it was boom, and one absolutely rocked me. Hit my Kevlar, scathed my head, knocked me back into the vehicle, and all the guys in the vehicle were like, "What the fuck just happened?" And I thought, I told them I think I'm hit, and they're like, "Where?" And I was like, I don't fucking know. I don't know. And they're like, button up the top and get the fuck down. And I remember, oddly enough, I had a interpreter in the vehicle with us, and he's like, I remember him being scared as shit, and he's like, "Go back up there." And I was like, the 50's down, and he tries handing me a grenade. I'm like, not the time. Regardless, that was the most intense thing I've ever done in my life. Thank God none of us were hit. We had no casualties. I don't know how, but we did a brief BDA, which is like an assessment after a firefight, and we went back to our patrol base. I remember afterwards, after something like that, we all clean weapons. And it's quiet. And everyone's still in this odd shock. And then all of a sudden it breaks. And everyone's just like, "Holy shit! Did you see Icardi fucking take one?" And everyone was just going back and forth telling their stories about what happened. And it was... almost like a family. There's certain feelings you get over there that you never feel again. And that right there, I gotta say, I have never felt the adrenaline from a moment like that ever again. Not that I want to, but goddamn. So as I said, we worked with A&A and AHP. We had one incident that went down. We got into a brief firefight, and we ended up chasing down a vehicle down Route 606. And we thought it was just full of Taliban fighters, but we ended up ramming it off the road, flipping the vehicle. I think the guys inside died, but we ended up getting close to 50, 60 kilos of raw heroin. And keep in mind, this is the Taliban's bread and butter. They grow it in Helmand, and they ship it to Pakistan, or that's what we learned. And that's how they get their weapons, their money, whatever they need to fight us. Regardless, this was very tense. Keep in mind, the Afghans, I mean, I know poor. I'm from Boston. You know, people don't have money where I'm from. These guys are poor. They walk around with their belongings. A weapon, their rags, a toothbrush, which is odd, but every person that I've searched or had to go through their belongings, they have a toothbrush, very nasty toothbrush, and a chai cup, teacup. That's what they own. Regardless, they are poor. When we brought this heroin back to our patrol base, Afghans were laying down their weapons and stealing the kilos and leaving. Which, keep in mind, I'm 20, 21. I have no idea what the fuck is going on. But this put a very insecure feeling for us. The guys that we're training, fighting with, are quitting and stealing the heroin that we just got from the Taliban. So I don't know what the fuck's going on there. And basically, we all felt extremely uneasy, and we doubled the security at our patrol base, and we attempted to hire new AHP A&A. And at that time, I could be wrong about this, but this is when Rambo came into the picture. Rambo was an ex-Mujahideen soldier. And I don't know if you know, and keep in mind I don't know much about the Mujahideen, but what I do know is they were freedom fighters, and they were the ones that fought the Russians. And some of them went Taliban, some of them kind of did their own thing, but these boys could fight. And I had the privilege of meeting one individual named Rambo. And this was the real Rambo. This was no Hollywood Sylvester Stallone. This guy killed people. And he walked around constantly, probably slept with it, pounds of ammo on his chest for his big PKM machine gun that he carried with him everywhere. A very intense individual. They talk about Marines having a 1,000-yard stare from firefights they get into and different things they do. You looked at this guy, and you know he's been places and he's seen things. Regardless. Captain comes in, and he asks for a couple volunteers to go out to a patrol base down, I believe it was Route 1. And keep in mind, whenever they ask for volunteers to go to a patrol base, hand was always shot right up in the air, because you were your own boss. There was no higher leadership out there. Sergeants, corporals, lance corporals, privates ran the show. And that's how it should be. Regardless, me and a couple of my buddies went out to this patrol base, so there was probably 5, 6 Marines, maybe less, and probably 10 Afghans. And Rambo went out there with us. So the first instant that I had with Rambo, we get out to the patrol base, and this thing was ragtag, basically a couple HESCO barriers, sand mounds. It wasn't fit for a defensive position. It needed to be built up. So we brought some more HESCO barriers, some Constantine wire, which is this badass barbed wire, and a shitload of sandbags. So we take half the Afghans, and we go on a dismounted patrol through the local town to try to meet the towns. That's the first thing you do when you get to a new area. You go out to the town, you talk to the people, you show respect, you let them know that you're going to be in the area, and you have one goal: kill the Taliban and help them. You gotta, throughout my life, I stand on, you gotta give respect to get respect, period. And it served me well. Regardless, Rambo was in charge of the Afghans out there, so I tell the interpreter, hey, you guys need to fill a bunch of sandbags. We're gonna go on a patrol, build this shit up a little bit, and we'll be back in a couple hours. So we go on a patrol, nothing really happens. We come back, and keep in mind, our patrol base is on a main road. I come back, and there's probably 40 cars lined up, stopped at a standstill. Rambo's on the main road with his PKM, stopping these guys. So they're not going anywhere. And everyone's out of their car filling sandbags. So instead of them doing it, they pull over a bunch of civilian Afghans and they're filling the sandbags. That's kind of how they do business. So I wasn't really mad at them, but, you know, whatever. Got the job done. Who cares? So next day, we receive a little bit of contact. This is kind of a iffy, risky story to tell, but we receive a little bit of contact. Some guys shooting at us from maybe a football field away. And we bunker down and exchange a little back. And you can see Rambo amping up, and he's really getting aggressive. And he actually leaves cover. And keep in mind, once we exchange back and forth, usually they run away. Rambo goes out there and actually shoots one of the guys, goes up to him, and kicks his weapon away and puts him down. And we're all like, whoa, like, I mean, you can't really do that. And so I'm yelling at him, what the fuck, get back here. He's not really listening. So we all get back. It settles down, the night gets there, and anytime that we get into a serious situation over there, even though these Afghans, they don't have anything, they feel the need to eat with us, supply the meal for the night. So they somehow get some kind of meat. I don't know what exactly it was, but and nome or bread, Afghan bread, which actually was pretty good. Everyone sits in a circle, and Rambo comes around with a basin of water and washes everyone's hands. He puts the food in the middle, and everyone eats. We eat together. I'm 20, 21, in the most dangerous part of Afghanistan, or one of them, and me and my boys, my Doc Sanchez, my driver, Xavier, one of my drivers, and a couple other guys, in the most dangerous position we could be, just eating with these guys. And we have an interpreter with us. And I remember wanting to, keep in mind, Rambo, after we're done eating, he brings out this wicked, huge hookah, and over there they smoke hash. That's like tobacco to them. And he wants us all to smoke with him. And one of the guys that I was with was, no, I can't do it, or whatever. And Rambo looks at him in disgust. And he looks at the interpreter, and he's like, rattles something off to him, and the interpreter laughs. And he's like, why you be bitch? We out here, we fight together, we dine together, we smoke together. And he was kind of almost offended. And I told him, pay no mind, whatever. But I countered Rambo, and I was like, hey, guy, why the fuck did you go John Wayne earlier and absolutely disregard me and not listen at all? And as I said before, Rambo has this look about him, and he gives, and I talked through the interpreter, and he gives me this look, and he rattles off this 10, 15-minute story to the interpreter. And the interpreter, I'm looking at him, he's just like, and he looks at me and he's like, here we go. So apparently, Rambo was a wealthy landowner back when the Russians came into Afghanistan. That that's when I believe the Taliban established themselves as a shadow government over Afghanistan. And they were literally going to everyone's farm or house that they could occupy and turn into a defensive position, or just anything that they could use to benefit them. So they went to Rambo's house, and I believe he had daughters and a few wives. According to Rambo, they said, "This is ours now. Everything here is ours, and we'll be coming back." And I guess Rambo said no, according to him. And I guess the Taliban came back, shot him, so he couldn't defend his family, and they raped and killed his family in front of him. He said to me, after this, I kill any Taliban that comes near me, period. And I couldn't question him. That story resounded in me. If I were him, I'd feel the same way. Yeah, that's my Rambo story. I'm pretty sure after we left Afghanistan, Rambo got killed, but I need to try to keep that guy's story alive. There's certain individuals that you meet that are not, that you need to keep their memory alive, period. And that's one of them. So yeah, that's Rambo. As I said, my captain and my driver took a pretty serious IED hit on a patrol we went on. And after that, that absolutely took all the wind out of our sails. It was just absolute. They were the spirit of our team. And I know a lot of guys have it much worse. You know, when we were over there, IEDs were absolutely decimating people. Double amps. They were absolutely creating carnage for a lot of Marines. So we definitely didn't have it bad as a lot of people, but the man I looked up to the most and who saved my ass on more times than I can count took a serious hit by an IED, and it was not a good day for us. I want to say, Captain Donnerstag, thank you for everything you did for us over there. A day doesn't go by that I don't think about you. And yeah, thank you. You made us men over there, and you kept us alive. True definition of a leader. You embodied that to the fullest. And we all recognize that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels this way. Thank you.